When he appeared at the White House to announce his plan to reform immigration, Donald Trump made no mention of the legislation he had just minutes before made into law.
The stock market hit an all-time record high today.
The sanctions legislation against North Korea, Iran, and most notably Russia was overwhelmingly passed by both houses of Congress last week. Still, it took Donald Trump 5 days to sign it, somewhat reluctantly.
The president favors tough measures to punish and deter the bad behavior of the rogue regimes in Iran and North Korea, and he also sent a clear signal that we won't tolerate interference in our democratic process by Russia.
But that support wasn't clear at all. In a statement, Trump called the sanctions clearly unconstitutional and seriously flawed. He lamented the limits the law had placed on his authority, arguing it curtailed his ability to negotiate with adversaries, a reason he says he was elected to the White House. President Trump had no choice but to sign the legislation, given a majority of members of Congress supported the law. If the president had vetoed the legislation, Congress had the ability to override that veto. The president says the legislation also hampers U.S.-Russia relations, something he hopes to improve. Russia's ambassador to the United Nations doesn't blame Donald Trump.
He basically was obliged to sign it, and of course, you know, this bill was adopted by U.S. Congress on the host of absurd accusations about Russia.
The U.S. first acted against Russia for alleged interference in the 2016 presidential election late last year. Then President Obama ordered the closure of 2 Russian compounds and the expulsion of some of its diplomats. President Trump has been reluctant to do the same.
The president's perception of how the U.S.-Russia bilateral relationship should move forward is very different from many of his top advisors. And that tension within the White House right now means that this administration is speaking from 2 sides of its mouth and does not have a coordinated, consistent policy.
Well, thank you very much.
Trump explained he signed the legislation for the sake of national unity, acknowledging the country remains divided 6 months into his presidency. Given there are still 5 investigations ongoing into possible collusion between the Trump White House and Russia, it's unlikely the delayed signing of this legislation will do much to counter voter concerns. Kimberly, Halkett, Al Jazeera, Washington.